Hello, this is Dr. Sujata Magdum, Assistant Professor in Zoology, KTHM College, Nasi, Department of Zoology. I'll be dealing with immunology for MSc Semester 3. The topic is Introduction to Immune System, in which here in present PPT, I'll be discussing only about the primary lymphoid organs. Now, to begin with our session, we need to just go through or review the immune system. You know that human body is comprising of large number of systems like digestive, excretory, reproductive and so on, and all these systems perform their function. Likewise, there is one more immune system which is concerned with imparting immunity, and its main role is to eliminate or resist the entry of harmful pathogenic organism or foreign particles into the body, as well as to remove certain abnormal cells which are present within the body. Hence, we can summarize the function of immune system as it acts against the pathogenic invasion, or the viruses and bacteria are not allowed to enter very easily into the body as such, hence imparting protection to the individual as such. Apart from that, there are certain old worn out cells like old RBCs. They should be removed timely, and also during the injury there is presence of some injured tissue or the cells which are to be removed. Elimination of such worn out or tissue debris from the body is also the important part of immune system. It also helps in identifying the different abnormal or mutant cells in the normal condition, and such abnormal and mutant cells either they are destructed or eliminated by the act of immune system. There are certain inappropriate responses like development of allergies and development of autoimmune responses are seen concerned with immune system. Now, this immune system is comprising of different types of organs which are called as lymphoid organs. And these lymphoid organs can be categorized into two main groups, that is primary lymphoid organs or the secondary lymphoid organs. Now, primary lymphoid organs, they are also called as central lymphoid organs, whereas secondary lymphoid organs, they are called as peripheral lymphoid organs. Now, let us understand the meaning of primary or central lymphoid organ. Primary means these organs basically they are concerned with formation of different types of immunocompetent cells. So as they are the prime organs or the sites for formation or generation and maturation of immune cells, they are called as primary lymphoid organs. Moreover, they are also called as central lymphoid organ because they are seen located deeply inside the body. They are not towards the peripheral part of the body, as they are seen deeply inside, so they are also called as central. So we can categorize lymphoid organs into primary or central lymphoid organs and secondary or peripheral lymphoid organs. Now, secondary lymphoid organs are those organs which are basically seen towards the peripheral part of the body, and they are concerned with activating the immunocompetent cells which are already generated into the primary lymphoid organ. So you may wonder from primary lymphoid organ how they enter into the secondary lymphoid organ. It is only by means of circulation, either through the blood or through the lymphatic system. Now, immune system, as we are considering here, the major circulatory fluid concerned in circulating immunocompetent cell is the lymphatic system. The composition and its nature shall be dealt when I'll be dealing with secondary lymphoid organs, right? Let us concentrate now on primary lymphoid organs, which are also called as central lymphoid organs, and they comprises mainly bone marrow and thymus in case of humans, and bursa of Fabricius or fetal spleen in case of lower chordate, that is in aves as well as cattle, right? As I mentioned in the beginning itself, that primary is those organs which are concerned only with bringing about differentiation and maturation of the immunocompetent cells from the stem cells, right? Now, these immunocompetent cells, they are also seen scattered within certain tissue. and those tissues, they can be classified as diffused type, solitary or aggregated. They are located in various regions of the body. The second table, it gives the details of these different types of immunocompetent tissues, which can be classified as MALT. MALT refers to mucosa associated lymphoid tissue, which can further be classified as gut associated lymphoid tissue and bronchus associated lymphoid tissue. So whether you're talking about gut associated or you're talking about bronchus associated, they form a part of mucosa associated lymphoid tissue and they are present throughout the body. Mucous membrane, which forms the internal lining of the intestine, it plays a very important role in imparting immunity, and it is a type of solitary immune system, a solitary immune tissue. In the same way, the lower part of the intestine, which is called as ileum, is concerned with showing presence of certain Pierce patches, and these are aggregated cells which play an important role in imparting immunity. So the diagram here or the picture towards the right, it shows the various different types of primary and secondary lymphoid organs which are shown in maroon color. Like you can go through thymus, then the second organ, primary lymphoid organ is the bone marrow, then appendix, spleen, Pierce patches, lymph node, tonsils, these are part of secondary lymphoid organs. We shall now go into the details of primary lymphoid organs. You should not forget that the main function of primary lymphoid organ, as I mentioned, is generation and differentiation of immunocompetent cells, right? So, the organs which are included here in primary lymphoid organs are thymus, bone marrow and bursa of Fabricius. Thymus is the gland which is concerned with generation of T cells. T refers to thymus. That's the reason the name of the immunocompetent cell also is T cells. Or in other words, you can remember that thymus gives the or is the site for generation of T cells, right? Now this thymus is located into the mediastinum region. Now what is mediastinum? Mediastinum is the space between the two lungs, right? It's a narrow space between the two lungs. Hence, I can describe the position of thymus as it is seen onto the lower side of the neck or it is seen above to the heart in the mediastinum region. Correct? So that forms the location of thymus. Now this thymus, what is its shape and size? Its shape is, it is flat and bilobed in nature. And the size, it varies and depends on the age of the individual. What does it mean? It means that in the infant condition, it is heavy, the cell mass is more as compared to the weight of the gland in the older people. It indicates that there is age-dependent involution seen with the thymus. What does it mean, age-dependent involution? It means that onto the lower side, in figure number 3, you can see that the pink color gland is more prominent in newborn, and as it goes towards the elderly age, that is 70 years, the pink color, it narrows down or it becomes less. It means that the cells are less in older people. So this means that there is a depletion in the number of cells as there is increase in age. So this means that there is age dependent involution seen with reference to thymus gland. What is its effect onto the individual? It means that if the cells are more, as you can see into the newborn condition, hence large number of circulating T cells will be observed in the newborn babies, and it goes on. The growth goes on till the pubertal stage. Once the individual attains puberty and later on from the year of 25 years of age onwards, this gland, it shrinks. Shrinks in the sense the cellularity is lost and it is replaced by presence of certain adipose tissue or there is presence of large number of fibrous tissue. That is why there is decline in the weight of gland also. That is what is mentioned here. Now next, we'll go into the histological aspect of thymus. In figure 4, you can see that there is TS of thymus gland shown. You can see variation in the color zone. What variation one can see? That is, there is dark color region towards the exteriors, and towards the interiors there is sparsely colored or light colored region. So dark color region of the gland is called as the cortex region, and the light color is called as the medulla. Both cortex and medulla, it is encapsulated. That means it is covered with a fibrous coat, and that fibrous coat, it forms the capsule of the gland. Now this capsule is unique because the internal wall of the capsule, it sends large number of finger-like projections. You can see the white lines innervating the cell mass. So this innervating line is called as the trabecule. What does it mean? It means that the cell mass, it gets distinguished, or it gets bifurcated, or it gets separated from one another. Hence, it gives rise to formation of large number of lobules. So lobe gets divided into lobules by means of large number of internal septa, or it is also called as trabecule. So how this trabecule is originated? It is the finger-like projections which are coming from the capsule of the gland. I hope it is clear now, right? Coming to the cell mass, as I said that the outer region, it contains large amount of cells. Hence, it is darkly stained, or it appears dark when you observe the slide under the microscope. Now this dark cortex region, it contains many different types of thymocytes or different types of cells other than thymocytes. So that can be clearly visualized onto the figure number 5, which gives the diagrammatic representation of figure 4, right? So just concentrate onto the cortex region. Here we can see that other than thymocytes, which are blue colored cells, smaller in size, there are some C cells. Now these C cells, they are called as the nurse cells. And along with these nurse cell and thymocytes, there are some cells with pseudopodia-like structures. So these cells are called as the epithelial cells. So epithelial cells, they are seen scattered in the cortex region as well as into the medulla region. Those which are present into the cortex region, they are called as the cortical epithelial cells, whereas those which are present onto the inner side, they are called as the medullary epithelial cells. Other than that, many dendritic cells or macrophages, they are also seen. You can see purple color cells, these are the dendritic cells, and yellow color cells, they are the macrophages. Hence, we can say that, or we can conclude that the cortex region, it contains large number of thymocytes in different stages of development. So they are immature thymocytes, and along with immature thymocytes, there are presence of nerve cell, then epithelial cells, there are dendritic cells as well as macrophages. Coming to medulla, which forms the inner core part of thymus, it contains less number of thymocytes, and these less number of thymocytes, they are actually the differentiated mature thymocyte coming from the cortex region, right? So as I said, cortex, it contains immature cell. As they attain maturity, they move towards the interiors and they come down into the medulla region. So in medulla, one can see presence of large number of matured T cells which are ready to leave the gland. And along with these T cells, there are presence of Hessel's corpuscles. So by observing Hessel's corpuscles and less number of cell, one can identify the histological region as the medulla of thymus. Next. Now what is the significance of this thymus? Thymus is concerned with generation of T cells. So obviously the circulating T cells into the body is attended only by presence of thymus gland as such. But there are certain medical emergencies wherein one can find that thymus is small in size or probably it is non-functional. So these pathological conditions is only because of certain genetical reasons. That is, we can say this chromosome number 22, if some region of this chromosome 22 is deleted, then it will affect on the development of thymus. And obviously, the size of the thymus, if it is less or small, obviously the number of circulating T cells will reduce and it will hamper the immunity. Also, there will be certain morphological visible aspects noted in such individual. Those individuals, they will show presence of cleft into the upper lip or into the palate. So towards your left side in figure 5, you can see two kids who are shown with presence of cleft into the upper lip and into the palate region. So this is only because of deletion of chromosome 20, wherein it can be correlated with smaller size of thymus. Such kids, they have abnormal facial features and they have learning difficulties. So to understand the significance of thymus, scientists, they experimented thymectomy into the mice, and in neonatal mice they removed the thymus gland. It was observed that this mice, when it grew, it was not showing presence of any fur on its body, and when the fluid part, that is the lymph as well as the blood, it was pulled out, they could note that such mice were showing lack of circulating T cell. This indicates that absence of thymus will lead to lowering or absence of circulating T cells into the body. Now the next organ into consideration is the bone marrow. Bone marrow is seen present into the long bones and is not seen present into the short bones. Human body, it comprises of both long bones as well as short bones, but only the long bones, they have this marrow cavity, and this marrow cavity, once again we can distinguish into two types, that is yellow marrow cavity and red marrow cavity. To understand the location of yellow marrow cavity and bone marrow cavity and their significance, we will just have the glimpse of bone. On to figure number 7, you can see that the bone, it shows presence of two knob-like structures at the extreme ends, which are called as proximal epiphysis and distal epiphysis. Now these proximal and distal epiphysis, basically they are concerned with attachment of the muscles, and internally they contain presence of red marrow cavity or red bone cavity. Now this red bone cavity is concerned with hematopoiesis. That means it is concerned with generation of blood cells as well as lymphatic cells. Whereas in between this distal and the proximal epiphysis region, there is a long slender area which forms the compact bone. Now this compact bone is also called as diaphysis, which holds internally marrow cavity, which is called as yellow cavity. This part is yellow cavity. Here also you can see yellow cavity, right? So yellow marrow cavity it appears yellow in color because it contains large number of adipose cells within itself, or it is storage of lipids, one can say. Therefore, it appears yellow and the name is yellow marrow cavity. Whereas the proximal as well as distal region, epiphyseal region, it is concerned with synthesis of blood cells, and so this area appears to be red in color, right? So we are going to now understand the process of hematopoiesis, how it occurs into humans. In case of red marrow cavity, just which you have observed into the epiphyseal region, is the site for hematopoiesis. Now in this region, there are large number of HSC cells. HSC cells stands for hematopoietic stem cells. Now these hematopoietic stem cells, they are called as multipotent cells. Multi refers to many. Potent means ability. So multipotent cells refers to those cells which has the ability to get differentiated into many different types of cells. So which are those many different types of cells? It can give rise to a line of cells of blood or line of cells belonging to the lymph. Hence, they can be categorized as the progenitor cells. In other words, I can say that hematopoietic stem cell, these gets differentiated into two lineages, and those lineages, they are called as myeloid lineage and the lymphoid lineage. So myeloid lineage, they are going to give rise to the different types of blood cells as such, like WBC, RBC, monocytes, granulocytes, agranulocytes, platelets, and so on. Whereas the lymphoid progenitor cells, these are concerned with giving rise to T cell progenitor cells or B cell progenitor cells. Now here, as we are talking about bone marrow, I will focus only on B cell progenitor cells. So B cell progenitor cells, they get converted into B cell and then leave the red marrow cavity and come into circulation. So into the bodily circulation, one can see presence of B cells. So these B cells, whenever they encounter certain pathogenic organisms or foreign particles, they get transformed into the plasma cells which are responsible for generation of antibodies. And such antibody synthesizing cells which are originating from B cell, we can say a part of humoral type of immunity. These parts will once again get clarified when we will be talking about antigen and antibodies in detail. So now here what you need to understand is in bone marrow, that is specially into the red marrow cavity which are seen present into the spongy bones, that is the proximal or the distal epiphyseal region. Here hematopoiesis occurs, and here only hematopoiesis occurs because the stromal cells which are present into these area comprising of fat cells, endothelial cells or fibroblast or macrophages, they provide an hematopoietic inducing environment which triggers the multipotent HSC cells to get converted into myeloid progenitor cells and the lymphoid progenitor cells, right? Next. The same is the condition with reference to lower chordates also. Here we can say that in lower chordate, if I talk about the aves, in case of aves, they don't show presence of marrow cavities which are located into the bone marrow because here the bones are pneumatic bones. And so the function of development of B cell is seen occurring into bursa of Fabricius. So where is bursa of Fabricius? Bursa of Fabricius is seen located nearby to the cloacal region in case of birds. In case of cattle and sheep, it is the fetal spleen which participate in the process of B cell formation. A very interesting aspect of formation of B cell is seen in the early development of humans also. As soon as after the process of fertilization, when the zygote is in the phase of growth, that time in the first week of fertilization, the yolk sac is going to provide the immunocompetent cell to the developing embryo. Right? I said the first week. From first week till third month, it is only the yolk sac which will be providing, and later the fetal spleen, it participate in developing the B cell. After the trimesic condition, the liver, it participates in development of B cell. That means 3 months to 7 months, or when the baby is in the womb of the mother. And from 7 months onwards till the old age, it is the long bones of the human which participate in synthesis of B cells, right? I hope you understood from today's lecture. Here In 2 minutes, I shall be summarizing. We discussed about the two important type of lymphoid organs which are present in immune system, that is primary and secondary. Primary is also called as central lymphoid organ. Peripheral is called as the secondary lymphoid organ. Primary lymphoid organs, it comprises of three important organs like thymus, then bone marrow and bursa fabriceus, and these primary organs, they are concerned with generation of two important cells, that is T cells and B cells. T cells are developed from thymus, B cells they are developed from bone marrow or bursa fabriceus. Now as both T cells and B cells, they are seen differentiated and developed within the thymus and bone marrow respectively, these two organs, they form primary lymphoid organs. Right? Hope you understood the gist of the lecture. Thank you. Thank you so much.